The void between two worlds. If ever there was a time of transition, then surely this is it, for both the world and for every individual upon it. For change is occurring in every field of human endeavour, spiritually, technologically, politically, economically, artistically, geographically, and in the nature of reality itself. Change that is occurring more rapidly than ever before, and the speed of that change is only getting faster. We are clearly hurtling towards a nodal point, a nexus point, a singularity from which a new divergence must occur, a splitting into radically different pathways. The two polarities of this spectrum of pathways seem to be a deep materialism on the one side and a deep spirituality on the other, with most likely gravitating to a path in between. But if you are listening to this, then I imagine you are inclining towards the spiritual end of that spectrum. This talk is certainly aimed at those who are inclining in that direction, who are choosing intangibles such as love, presence, spiritual growth, and a cosmic interconnectedness, over tangibles such as fame, money, and the accumulation of material possessions. For those who are in this camp, what is it exactly that will determine the outcome of all this change, that will determine which trajectory we take when we fly out of the nodal point that we are accelerating towards? If it had to be boiled down to one single factor, that factor would surely have to be consciousness. That most slippery of concepts, for they don't teach us about that at school or at work or on the television. We're left in the dark with only our intuition, our dissatisfaction with the material world, and with repeating loops of suffering to sooner or later usher us in that direction. But where to go with that hazy inclination? We are all unique individuals, so no two paths will be the same. But what is the same? What is universal within us all, if we are to move in a more spiritual and less material direction, is the need to stop copying and competing and absorbing all the toxic sludge that's out there in order to create the stillness and the silence and the space that's needed to come to know ourselves. We need to end the neurotic impulse to consume all the information for fear of missing out or succumbing to some terrible danger. We need to diminish our addiction to those frequent little dopamine hits triggered by social media or shopping or television or games or alcohol and drugs, and do the unthinkable. Feel uncomfortable, feel restless, feel bored, for a while at least. Allow those feelings to rise up to the surface and sit with them. Understand them. Discover what's causing them to arise. We're likely running away from something, an uncomfortable truth, a fear. But if we can feel and understand the cause of our discomfort, that is the beginning of letting it go, of becoming free of it. And then we can begin again, with a blank sheet of paper, to actively and intentionally create who we want to be, rather than just react to all the toxicity that pulls us this way and pushes us that way. When we detox from social media and things like TV, needless shopping, mindless games and drink and drugs, it can and probably will leave a great gaping void in our life. A lonely, empty space where we can hear our own heartbeat, and we become aware of every thought and feeling that arises, particularly the intrusive ones. And it will almost certainly feel boring and uncomfortable at first. It may seem almost painful, like a junkie going cold turkey, but in our minds and emotions rather than in our physical body. That is the void between worlds. It is the place where we strengthen our spiritual and philosophical muscles, the place where we grow our attention span and patience, where we transform from consumer into creator. No one has to go through this process, of course. We can choose to continue to suppress, numb, and run from ourselves, but many of us are feeling a growing need to get this monkey off our back, to cleanse ourselves of the fears that we're suppressing and numbing and running away from, to dig down deep to discover who we are in our innermost being, and then plot a new course forward that isn't a reaction to the outside world, but an attuning with our own nature and our own passions, talents, and spiritual, philosophical inclinations. We don't have to do this alone. For some it might be easier to go through such a catharsis alone, but others might find great solace in having people to talk to along the way, to compare tips and experiences with, and to encourage each other to continue, and perhaps even to find friends and form the seed of a new community of kindred souls along the way. These words are not a part of some proprietary endeavour, with paywalls and getting rich in mind. It's not so much an organised movement as an intuitive inclination that we each experience differently. Some will choose to ignore that pull, while others will choose to go with it. Some with more determination and others with less. But it's not about making great leaps and bounds, so much as moving at a pace that works for you. For some, taking great leaps and bounds and going cold turkey to all unhealthy influences works well. But for others, taking baby steps that move mostly in the right direction is the easier, happier, and more sustainable way forward. It's the path that I'm advocating here. If this is a path that you are feeling an intuitive pull to walk, and if you'd like to connect with others who are walking a similar path, then I imagine you'll gravitate towards those people and cross paths with them from time to time. But I'm hoping that this podcast and this channel might be one such place where that can happen, where a small community can connect. I do invite people to come together here and to share their intentions, ideas, and experiences, and I invite you to build something of your own and mention it here as a signpost towards a little community of your own. It doesn't really matter where people meet, but I'm certainly putting my intention out there and offering this channel as a space where that can happen. I'd love nothing more than to help form a seed that grows a little piece of a new earth, and at the same time make our individual journeys a little easier and more enjoyable. I see no reason why inner work, self-development, spiritual journeys have to be painful or difficult paths to take. In fact, I think they should be uplifting and empowering and fulfilling and fun whenever possible, bearing in mind that there will be ups and downs, days when you feel exhausted and dispirited, perhaps even anxious, depressed and lost. But that's all part of the process of climbing up a mountain instead of sliding down it. Ups as well as downs are involved. Feeling difficult feelings and becoming aware of difficult truths will be involved. But the overall trend is that you'll get stronger and freer, and your view will expand as you discover the true you, that beautiful divine being underneath all that clutter. Please consider posting a comment if you're up for sharing that journey, and we can keep each other company along that winding road. And in the meantime, I'll continue to walk it alone and post my findings here. Many thanks for taking the time to listen to this talk. And until the next time, bye-bye.